Resident Evil 7 Biohazard. Easy on the wallet, but is it worth your time?
We decide if having two hands is really even all that important in order to find out here on Broke and Gaming.
Welcome, absolutely everyone, to Broke and Gaming. I'm your host, Shea.
I am your other host, Dan, and we are reaching the end of spooky season, and right off the bat, we have some explaining to do. For the first time in the game's history, we had to bail on a game that we intended to play, so we announced at the end of the last episode that we would be covering Secret Neighbor today. And, Shea, holy fuck.
If you follow us on Twitter, you know that game was dog shit, and also nobody plays it anymore, so we couldn't cover that one. So we had to switch gears to play Resident Evil 7 instead.
Yeah. So here's the issue. So I don't like the the Hello Neighbor series anyway. Like, I think the controls are bad. I think it looks ugly as all hell. But for this one specifically, it's an asymmetrical multiplayer thing with like an Among Us aspect to it, where like secretly one of the 6 players that you are required to have to make this go correctly is actually the neighbor. So
which by the way is a wild fucking premise for that game, because like the entire idea behind those games is that you're children in one house being hunted by a grown man from another house. Yes. And so the idea that this dude can fucking disguise himself as a child is insane.
Yeah, it makes no sense. There really hasn't been, like, as far as I remember, a supernatural aspect to the Hello Neighbor series outside of, I think, like, DLC stuff. He's just a menacing dude with a bunch of secrets and potentially a murderer. It's
yeah, your friendly neighborhood Dexter.
Yes, it's like it's got a Rear Window kind of vibe to it.
Oh yeah. That's way better than mine. Very good. Yes.
They both work perfectly fine. But so our options were either play with randos that are still playing, because there are some people, but if you're this dedicated to be playing it now, you're probably an expert.
And you don't want us fucking there.
That doesn't sound fun to me. Or it was just Shea and I, which means one of us was the neighbor. That was it. So we had to bail. So we do apologize for the week added to the schedule. It's just great because I was like, we'll be back to our regular programming schedule. And then that lasted all of a single week. So, but it's okay. This puts the episode out closer to Halloween, and we will get to that in just a little bit. But in the meantime, Shea, what have you been playing recently?
Well, Dan, I have been trying to use the Xbox a lot more because Xbox has a lot of really good sales a lot of the time, I'm realizing.
Yeah.
And if I'm ever thinking about it, I will, resurrect our cheap codes on Twitter. But I've been playing Mass Effect because I got the Legendary Edition for like $11, I think. Jesus,
and that's all 3 of the
correct.
It's the first 3 mainline games, yeah.
Correct, yes.
Wow, that's a great deal. Jesus.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying, man.
That's like 457,000 hours of gameplay.
Correct, yes. I, of course, did not leave Shepard's name as Shepard. Well, no. Not Shepard, you can't change, but his name's not John or whatever boring-ass name they picked for him. He's cool now. Anyway, I've been playing a lot of that. I've been playing a bit of that, and that game is cool.
It's a lot of fun. It's been a long time since I've revisited the series.
That was my thought when I started. I was like, I don't remember this game at all.
It's so good, though.
It really is. The other thing I've been playing a lot of is Dragon's Dogma, The Dark Arisen, I believe is the subtitle on that one. And
I know nothing about that game. I'm familiar with the name, but I don't know anything about it.
I am familiar with the series Dragon's Dogma. I have never played a Dragon's Dogma game until now. I gotta say, having a lot of fun with this one, because you know me, I love a party-based RPG.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's fucking fantastic. Speaking of, I've also been playing Dragon Quest 11. 9. One of them. There's an X and an I in the title, and I can't remember what order they're in. That one I don't like so much. And then there's one more anime game that I've been playing. It's a party-based RPG as well. I can't remember the name of it off the top of my head, but it's basically been party-based RPGs for me for the last several weeks.
I wish I liked the Dragon Age games more, because the art style's cool. It's all done by the guy that did Dragon Ball Z, or Dragon Ball, I guess technically. But the stories are so dense, even by JRPG standards, but at the same time kind of don't matter. Like, so much of the theming is vanilla. Mm-hmm. The gameplay's fun in them, but like, I just can't bring myself to care about what's happening in any of them. Like, I've gone through a bunch of them to try to like be like, this is gonna be the one. I'm gonna like this series. I really want to like this series, and it just never ends up panning out. But
yeah. Dan, what have you been playing?
So I have dipped my toe into Weird West, which I don't know if we've talked about at all previously. It came out last year. It is a like spooky take on the Wild West genre. Like, it's all gunslingers, and then out of nowhere it'll be like, and here's a fucking harpy that you have to take down out of nowhere.
And why not?
Yeah. Like, I think the character that I'm playing as right now is a witch. They just may not know that they're a witch. Like, it's a bunch of stories kind of intertwined, but wrapped around a top-down shooter mechanic. Like, a little bit like Gungeon or anything like that, but you can actually rotate the camera.
Love
Big
that.
maps. It's a lot of fun, but I stopped playing it dead because Spider-Man motherfucking 2 came out. I don't buy a lot of games at launch. The Spider-Man games are so good that I had to. So I've been playing that for the last like 48 hours or so, and
sure,
it's great. It's everything you want it to be. It's built on the same engine, the same type of engine as the Arkham games. Like, it is the definitive Spider-Man experience. Like, being able to swing around the entirety of New York, it never gets old. And they added a bunch of new mechanics to this one where you can like glide with web wings, which makes traversal fun. The combat system is maybe too complicated because you have gadgets and powers, and also the same kind of thing as in Arkham, where it's like chain combos. Mm. And then it's like, this dude has a shield, have to take out that guy in a specific way. This dude has a gun, you have to take out that guy in a specific way. Like, It's that kind of thing where you're constantly on your toes. But overall, it's really fun. I haven't gotten into the real meat of the story yet. Like, I've not gotten the Venom symbiote yet, but yeah, it definitely seems like it's going to be a longer game than the Miles Morales like 1.5 game they put out.
Yeah,
so definitely a lot of bang for the $70 price tag. But Shea, I fucked up, and like, I'll make the most of it, I guess, probably. But when I went to buy Spider-Man, I was very sleep deprived and stressed out, and didn't realize that I had something in my cart that I was just kind of sitting on until it went on sale, as I am wont to do. So I paid $80 for the gold edition of AEW's Fight Forever, and this is the problem with buying things digitally, because I can't return it. Not that I would want to, but like, I'll be playing that at some point, because that's a whole lot of money to drop on something I don't plan on playing. So we'll talk about wrestling at some point down the line. Your favorite subject.
We sure will.
Yeah.
Speaking of things you don't want to play.
Holy shit. Let's get into today's game. Yes. And we will start, as we always start, with our short change history. This week we're playing Resident Evil 7 Biohazard, which is a 2017 first-person survival horror game developed and published by Capcom. Capcom's predecessor, IPM, was founded in 1974 by Kenzo Sugimoto, who was, at the time, the owner of a store in Osaka that sold machines to cotton candy vendors. And that will most likely be the most wholesome thing you'll hear for the remainder of this episode. In 1979, IPM became IREM after a letter from IBM said that there may be confusion between the two companies. IREM stands for International Rental Electronics Machines. Capcom itself was founded as a subsidiary in 1979, and the name was derived from a combination of Capsule Company. There were a ton of mergers and acquisition information here that we don't need to get into, But what you do need to know is that Capcom has gone on to be one of the most prolific and successful third-party video game developers, responsible for the Street Fighter, Mega Man, Devil May Cry, Monster Hunter series, as well as Kelsey's other favorite series, Ace Attorney. And of course, the subject of today's episode, Resident Evil. Resident Evil, known in Japan as Biohazard, was created by Shinji Mikami and Takuro Fujiwara, and the first title in the series released in 1996. Since then, there have been about 25 games released in the series, not including remakes, as well as multiple films, novels, and other adapted media. Resident Evil 7 Biohazard is currently available for PlayStation, Xbox, Switch, and PC platforms. Shea, would you like to tell us what this game is actually about?
I would love to, Dan. Ethan Winters, a noted hand trauma enthusiast, is on the hunt for his wife, who's been missing for 3 years. She sends him an email, and he goes to Louisiana to track her down. In a very Texas Chainsaw-like situation, he is abducted by a family of cannibals and must fight his way out of the house, delivering a serum to his wife before she turns. I guess that's it.
That is... And okay, so yes. We're gonna get into some of that in specificity, because this game is fucking wild. So this is the first part of what is going to be kind of a standalone trilogy in Resident Evil. It went Biohazard, which it's hilarious that this one's subtitled Biohazard, because that would make it technically Biohazard 7 Biohazard.
In Japan, right.
In Japan.
Yeah.
And then that was followed by The Village, where you are also Ethan Winters. These are the first games in the series that are first-person perspective. Everything else has been like a third-person, either kind of top-down, room-by-room sort of thing, or kind of free-roaming third-person.
Yeah.
So this shift was effective. Like, this is probably the most terrifying game I've ever played. Without question, actually. Like, it is the most terrifying game I've ever played. So much so that I did not play a whole lot of this. I'm extremely familiar with the story. I'm extremely familiar with how the gameplay works. I had a whole lot of problems actually doing it myself. And I think I know why that is, and I'll get into that in a little bit. But how did you feel about this whole experience?
Not good, Dan. If you've ever watched me stream Village on our Twitch channel, you know that I don't do very well with that game either. Biohazard was about 1.5 million times worse, I would say.
Yeah, I feel that's fair. Like,
yeah.
It's astonishing how scary they ended up making this.
Right.
So, to kind of further delve into what we're doing here. So, you track your wife to the Baker residence, which is like a plantation-y type, like sprawling estate, all fenced off, where there's guest houses and all these other things. And you don't really come across anybody for a little bit. You're just kind of making your way through this dilapidated cabin at first, until you come across a videotape of the last group of people that had gotten there, which I hate that sequence because the host of the show that they're filming is such an asshole. Like, it's just unpleasant. Yeah. But, like, watching this video, you, like, find a secret passage that you then use yourself in order to, like, actually come across your wife. So, when you first got to Mia, and you have that initial dialogue, like, what was going through your head there?
Honestly, it was that I found her too early, and she's gonna try to kill me.
Oh, like, you already had the inclination that, like, she's gonna turn on you or something?
Oh, for sure. I mean, I'm kind of a tourist to the Resident Evil games, but I'm familiar with, like, the franchise. So I knew some shit was coming down.
Yeah. So before you ever encounter anybody else, yes, Mia seemingly, like, flips the fuck out and tries to murder you.
Well, I'll be honest with you, Dan. The reason that I knew some shit was coming down was because she was, like, chill for a little bit. Her first thing was not like, oh, you shouldn't be here. It was like, oh, you shouldn't be here, but we can still get out. Let's go. And so I was like, she's being too level-headed, and we're about to escape with our objective right away. So she's gonna try to kill me here.
So the whole thing is, you get this email from your wife, and once you find her, she's like, I didn't send any email. Like, that wasn't me.
Yeah.
And so immediately you're like, oh shit, what is happening right now?
Right.
So Mia's been held captive by the Baker family in, like, not even a basement. Like, it's in a, like, through a tunnel in a basement under a thing. Like, it's the most complicated way to get, like, to capture somebody and keep them hostage.
Yeah.
But you end up having to gun down your own wife before you even meet the Bakers. Like, you catch a glimpse of Jack, like, while you're trying to get to the cabin, but once you shoot your wife multiple times as she's coming at you with a chainsaw.
Hey, Dan, don't forget when you have to put an axe in her neck.
Oh, well. You do? Yep, of course. Yep. Which she just is fine with.
Shrugs off.
Mostly.
Shrugs it off.
Yeah.
Deep breaths, right?
Yeah. I like that when you, like, come back to where the body was, she clearly took, like, the hatchet out of her neck and then stuck it in the ground. It wasn't like it was just laying there. Like, it was awesome. Great. Wonderful. Yeah. But so after you seemingly take out Mia, you get attacked from behind by Jack Baker, and you wake up strapped to a chair for a little family dinner.
Yeah.
And this is more or less where I checked out gameplay-wise, because I knew what was coming. I've seen a whole bunch of walkthroughs of this even prior to playing myself, because it is a really good story, as complicated as it is. But it's so unnerving. Like, having this be in first-person perspective, and I think the biggest thing is there's almost no music.
Yes.
Like, it's just ambient sound, which makes it so much worse.
Yeah.
I think.
Yeah.
Okay, so the fucking Bakers. At this point, you have gotten your hand chopped off by Mia with a chainsaw, and it's just, like, reattached and seemingly okay now.
Yeah.
Like, as you're sitting there.
You've got industrial staples in your wrist, but otherwise, no worse the wear. I guess.
All your fingers work.
Yeah, better than before.
Whatever.
Even.
So I'm trying to decide where we go from here, because did you play much further into this than that part?
I got to the part where they have dinner as well, actually.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
That our horror tolerance is seemingly so low. I'm good with movies. I'm good with television. There's something about having to experience this in that first-person perspective that just fucked me up. And I don't know. Okay, so what do you know about the Bakers?
Nothing. Except that they seem to be loosely based on the Texas Chainsaw Massacre family.
There's definitely some parallels, yeah.
Yeah.
All right, let's explain the Bakers a little bit, who we're dealing with. So there's Jack Baker, who's the patriarch, and kind of your, I don't want to say run-of-the-mill redneck type dude, but, like, that's kind of
He's what not quite that, but yeah. He gives the vibe.
There's his wife, Marguerite. There's their terrible, terrible son.
He is a fucking piece of shit.
Yeah. There's so much going on here that, like, I have to decide what level of spoiler we want to go into. I mean, you want to crack the whole thing wide open, and we'll just say, like, if you want to experience this story, maybe skip all the way ahead, because this is it's gonna get deep. Because the Bakers are not who they seem to be. The son Lucas is the other person at the dinner, but there's another daughter that just isn't there. Named Zoe, who is seemingly unaffected by this. That's who calls you during your encounter with Mia of, like, get out through the attic. That whole thing.
Right. Yeah. She's for sure a plant, right?
Zoe?
Yeah, she's a plant. She's supposed to be like the disingenuous ally, continually leading you to traps.
Nope. She is fully on your side, for realsies.
Oh, wow.
Yes, because this story is fucking nuts.
She's actually Claire Redfield. Is what's going on.
We're gonna
anyway,
do this
you were saying about the grandmother.
Like a Band-Aid. Yeah. Okay. So, the old woman is not an old woman. The old woman is actually a bioweapon child who, when no longer in captivity, aged very rapidly.
Sure.
And the cause of all of this.
Cool.
So the Bakers were just a normal family. Like, Lucas was always a piece of shit, but...
Correct.
Like, Marguerite and Jack were very good people, took in Evelyn, who's this little girl, and Mia after a hurricane took out the ship that they were on. Mia is actually like an agent for a bioweapon manufacturing company. Like something like Umbrella, but not Umbrella.
Okay.
You didn't know that. Like, your character never knows that, at least at the beginning. But Mia has the power to control people because here's the thing.
Oh, God.
Throughout the series of Resident Evil, the whole thing has been the T-virus.
Right.
Like, Umbrella is responsible for the T-virus that caused these zombies and other bioweapons. This isn't a virus. This is mold, Shea.
Yep.
For some reason, they swapped to mold for this game.
Well, they saw the success that The Last of Us had with mushrooms, and they were like, we can do that, but we don't want to copy.
Yeah, so Evelyn controls this thing called the black mold, infected the entire Baker family as well as Mia, and Zoe's the only one that somehow, like, completely escaped, mostly unharmed.
Yeah.
Lucas is actually not as affected as he lets on, and is actually working as a double agent, but he's genuinely just a sociopath, so he's whatever. So the reason that Mia, Jack, and you are able to regenerate the way you are is because you're infected with this black mold.
Oh, of course.
Yes.
All right.
I'm going to jump way ahead now.
Yeah.
Because the black mold originates from the village in the village.
Okay.
All of the lore of the Resident Evil series is because of the village in the village. There's this like mega mycite thing that's under the ground in the village, which is why all of these transformations happen, which is why the parasites that are part of the village were mutated and then they became... So like, we're also working with 3 different types of pathogens here. Like, we have viruses,
yeah,
fungal infection, and parasites. Yeah, it's so insane. So all this is to say, this little girl is controlling all of this stuff. Jack Baker's actually a really good dude, and he comes to you in a vision later on after you kill him, again, seemingly because he comes back in the DLC when you're focusing on what happens to Zoe after the events of the whole thing. It's so fucking crazy. Even by Resident Evil standards, like, this was like, wow, we're really going for it this time.
They really wanted to hammer home that this was not 1 through 6, huh?
Yeah, they, aside from Chris Redfield showing up, there's not a ton of connective tissue in the main plot line in this game to the standard 1 through 6 series.
Does he show up in this game too?
Yep. So after you, in the final fight with Evelyn, who just becomes a fucking kaiju of black mold.
And why not?
Some offshoot of Umbrella with Chris Redfield shows up to help you defeat her. So,
okay.
like, there's another question mark of, like, why is Chris Redfield working with Umbrella? What the fuck is going on? Like, the whole game ends in, like, all of these fucking question marks. And the village explains part of them, but not all of them. It's really going to come down to the third game in this trilogy, whenever that ends up happening, that, like, we're going to get all the answers. But I don't want to give too many more spoilers for Village, because A, we're not covering it, and B, it's a much more palatable game because they made it so much sillier.
Yes.
That I think you'll be actually be able to complete it. Yeah.
I've been stalling for a very long time on the last area of Village, but eventually I will get there, yes.
Just because it's been a while since I've been able to watch where you've been streaming from. When you say the last part, is that Heisenberg or?
Yeah, Heisenberg.
Okay, so you're at the Heisenberg area.
Well, I'm not there yet. I'm dragging my feet very slowly to get there.
Okay.
Because I fucking hate that dude.
Heisenberg is interesting, but
He is, but anyway. Not to drift too far, but
that area seems like a real pain in the dick because it's all cyborg dudes. But yeah, not talking about that game today. Okay, so now that you know what the fuck is happening, how do you feel about at least these two games? We'll say we'll lump Village in as well. Like, what are you feeling?
I mean, a lot more of Village makes sense, and conversely, a lot less things in general make sense.
Yeah. Okay.
So a little column A, little column B. I don't think I realized, because like I said, I'm kind of a tourist to the Resident Evil games. I played 4 and 5 when I was in college, I think. And then didn't really play another one until 8 came out. So I haven't really played a whole lot of Resident Evil games. I'm much more invested in I've watched like all 37 of the Resident Evil movies and even gave the Resident Evil TV show a chance.
Yeah.
So I don't think I quite appreciated the shift that occurred with this game from the series as a whole. And having played both of them now and kind of comparing that to... I also didn't realize... I mean, like, I did somewhere in my brain, but I didn't realize that this was the first game that they did in first person. And it's fucking terrifying, dog.
It's so hard. Like,
yeah.
Because, like, when you do fight Jack Baker, like, right after that meal, like, he kind of stalks you around the house and he, like, busts through walls, and it's 0 to 60 so quickly. Like, especially just by the standard of a Resident Evil game. Like, when Nemesis would show up or Mr. X would show up in other previous titles, you weren't quite... Well, in Nemesis, you were in sort of confined spaces, but you could run immediately and just get away from him. You have to face Jack Baker. Like, there's really no avoiding it. And then there's like a whole showdown in a garage, which is a very tight space where you have to get in a car.
Sequence, though.
It's such a great sequence. Like, it's so well done. It's so cinematic. Mm-hmm. You get in a car and you just run him through a wall. It's fucked. It's so great.
Fantastic.
Yeah. I mean, there's a lot of that in this game where, aside from just like taking out normal... I say normal, but
yeah,
these like mutated fucking black mold monsters, which you can find diagrams in game, I believe, of how they created them, and it's brutal. Like, they would just capture people, put them in a bathtub, cover the bathtub in chicken wire, and then like pour this black mold all over them and wait for them to transform. It's fucked.
I think that was a saw trap, actually. So.
There you go. Why not? Man. By comparison, like we said, this is just so much more visceral and brutal than I feel The Village was. The Village, I think, almost intentionally went, okay, we got to make this campier. Like, it's got to be goofy in a way. Because, like, this is just fucked the whole time, it feels like.
Yeah.
Let's dive into pros and cons here.
Sure.
I mean, atmosphere, you can't ask for a better representation of just the horror genre than this, I don't think.
Yeah.
This specific type of genre, we'll say. Because, like, psychological, you could definitely do more with hallucinations and things like that. But in terms of, like, you are being hunted, this is the pinnacle that I can imagine.
Yeah.
So that's a massive pro for me.
Yeah, I think the choice to not have music for most of the game is what really made this stand out.
Yeah.
And just made it so terrifying, is that, like, you're traversing these terrible, terrible things. And also, you don't have a soundtrack in the background. So, like, it's immersing you into Ethan Winters even more, than the first person does.
Yeah, it really exemplifies that feeling of being, like, utterly alone.
Yeah, for sure.
Ugh. Yeah, that's a massive pro as well. Just to add to that atmosphere by really minimizing, like, because every creak of a floorboard then just shoots through you.
Yeah. Even the sound of your own footsteps.
Yeah.
It freaked me out a little bit.
Yeah. Like, did you play this with headphones?
Oh, fuck yeah.
Yeah.
Because why wouldn't I? You know? I hate myself.
Because you want to torture yourself as much as possible. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Slight minor con here. The face mapping didn't quite work great all the time for speech sequences. Speeching. Yeah, when someone was speeching at you, there's something just like a little bit off. It's the only thing that really took me out of the game to any extent. And it's minor. But like even in the video that you're watching of Mia, like right off the bat, it's like, this feels not good.
She's not quite talking right.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like her mouth, her mouth doesn't move enough, I don't think. And also her teeth are fucking gigantic for her head.
Yeah, there's an overall model issue with that, but not terrible, I guess. It's like I said, it's pretty minor, but it does like take me out a little bit because like there are some things that are, especially the atmospheres, so realistic looking, so lifelike, and the dinner I think was a massive improvement on that. Like when Jack's talking to you directly, it's not as noticeable, but something with, even when you rescue Mia initially, it's fine. It's just that opening video and a couple little parts here and there just really took me out. I guess we should mention, like, Mia does survive all of this. Like, even though you shot her in the head 37 times, like, she's fine because she also regenerates because of this black mold thing.
Right. And why not?
Yeah, just to get gunned down in the opening seconds of Resident Evil 8. So, good. Why not? Although there's more to that too, but we're not going to spoil that part. I mean, it's not fair to say that how scary this is a con, because that's what they were intending to do.
It's
a con for me.
Actually a pro. Yeah.
It's a huge pro, but it's a con for me.
A personal con. Yeah.
Yeah.
I know I stopped playing very quickly in this game, but I liked how scared it made me feel. You know what I mean? In the same way that we were just talking about how frightening it is as a pro, like they really hit everything that they were going for with this game.
Yeah.
I don't want to harp too much on the atmosphere, but like they really fucking nailed it. Like you are in a horror movie. You know what I mean? You're playing through a horror movie, and the fact that it's a video game, like I think that's what elevates it over the top. Like I think that's why I can watch any horror movie under the sun and be unaffected by it, but like having to be the person that's doing these things, like that's not my shit, you know?
Yeah. The creative team went to extreme lengths to get this right. Like they spent a lot of time in Louisiana trying to like scope out like what the best way to present this would be. They went to the bayou, they went to like these actual types of areas, to the point where they were like initially, just during that dinner scene, they initially had it as a square table, but then they noticed that round tables were more prevalent in the area that they were trying to depict this in, so they changed it. Like it's little details like that where it's like they really, really gave a shit about nailing this.
Yeah. You know what I felt was a really high point for this game? The bosses felt so much bigger than the mold monsters. You know what I mean? And so
it definitely scales appropriately. Like, and they make them feel really, really epic. Yeah.
But like realistic, well, I say realistically, but it's a game about mold people, but you know what I mean? They're grand scale, but they're not like too strong that Ethan wouldn't be able to handle it, quote unquote, realistically, you know?
Yeah, I think that's fair.
So I liked every single boss sequence in this game. They're so cool and distinct from each other that it was fun to watch.
I think it makes a little bit more sense than some of the bosses in the village.
Mm-hmm.
Because yes, they're super powered and they're wild, but like the fight with Marguerite, where she's like pregnant with a bunch of insects or whatever.
Oh boy.
Yeah, that's a rough one.
Yeah.
It still kind of makes sense that you'd be able to take them out with relatively normal weaponry, because they're not
giant gargoyles coming down from the sky to kill you.
Right.
Like they are in Village.
And the only one that is that huge of a scale is the last fight with Evelyn, where you do end up getting help from Chris Redfield, and I guess it's technically Blue Umbrella, not that it truly matters at this stage, but this like SWAT team essentially.
Yeah.
It all makes sense in a horror way.
Yeah.
I guess.
I have a very, very small con for this game.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think that Ethan responds to anything that happens to him like a human would.
Yeah, okay. I absolutely agree with that.
He kills his wife, and then her body disappears, and he's like, oh, okay, I guess we keep going. And it's like, dog, do you not have an ounce of fear in your body? You know? I'm not 100% sure what Ethan's backstory is supposed to be, but he seems like he's just a regular fucking dude, right? So the idea that he kills his wife, she was also like a monster in front of him, and then her body disappears, doesn't rattle him even a little bit,
Seemingly,
and then he gets his fucking hand cut off, and is just like, well, I guess we keep going. You know, and then like as you're going through, some strange woman is like calling him on random telephones around the house. He's never talked to this lady. She's like, you need to get out through the attic. And he's like, okay, I guess I'll do that, when it's like the front door is around the corner.
Yeah, whereas I feel like I'd be screaming like,
right,
tell me what the fuck is happening right now.
Exactly. Or he'd be 85 fucking miles away, you know, on the next flight out of New Orleans.
Right. Because you're not wrong. Like, there is that disconnection in logic that you have in a horror movie where it's like, why would you not run out the front door? Why are you going up to the upstairs bathroom? Like, it does do that because you have access to a chainsaw. You could easily chainsaw your way through the front door that you came in through and just fucking beeline it out the woods, out the bayou.
Well, I mean, not even that, but like, let's talk about how fucking fragile the walls of this house that you're in first are.
Yeah.
You could probably just kick your way through. You know?
Probably true, yes.
Like, I understand it's a horror game that he needs to stay to advance the plot, but like, he just doesn't respond to things how people would. It bugged me a little bit.
Like, compare that to Sebastian in The Evil Within. Like, I feel like at all points Sebastian was reacting appropriately to every fucking thing happening.
Every second of Sebastian's life was like, please kill me or get me out of this asylum.
Just like screaming like his head is on fire at all times, practically.
Exactly.
And Ethan's like, I wonder what's through this door. But that's kind of a hallmark of the series. Like, Leon didn't react the way you would.
Oh,
Claire
fuck that
didn't.
guy.
Chris didn't. Like, it is like, well, yeah, I guess this might as well happen. It's kind of the general vibe of every protagonist in the Resident Evil series.
That's true. That's true.
So at least they kept consistent, but like, it doesn't really translate to real life in that way. I definitely agree with that.
Yeah. Just the ho-hum nature of losing your hand is just wild to me.
It's funny, like, I almost feel like I would have been more comforted if the character reacted properly, because then it doesn't feel like I'm internalizing it all.
Yeah.
If that character was reacting the way that I feel like I would, like, then I don't know. I think that might have changed things.
Yeah, that's actually an excellent point. Just another fucking way that they lent horror to this is that you kind of feel like you're going crazy because you're like, am I the only one who is like upset by the fact that my leg has been cut off?
Yeah.
You know? And he's just like, well, I guess I'm hanging from the ceiling by hooks through my palms again. You know?
Yeah. Every other protagonist that I can think of. So we just recently covered the first of the Tomb Raider reboot trilogy. And I feel like Laura more or less reacts correctly as well.
Yeah.
Like, every single thing is like, what the fuck was that just now?
Right, yeah.
And then there's Ethan, just like, man, I better wrap this stump up. I might get infected. I'll worry about that later.
Ethan's solution to every problem is to dump a bottle of whatever medical herb he picked up in the house of cannibals onto his fucking stump of a wrist.
Yeah.
That'll probably be fine.
It's all store brand Bactine, and it's like, yeah, this is good. Whatever.
Yep.
Okay, should we throw some numbers, Shea?
Let's do it. I love throwing numbers. All right, up first, Dan. Does it work?
This works great. I have no complaints about the gameplay itself. And you really do have to get a first-person game pretty right. There are some games that it's noticeable that, like, your aiming doesn't really work right, or traversal doesn't really work right. This, I think, works exceedingly well.
Yeah, I agree with you. Easy point. Up next, is it engaging?
Incredibly.
Yeah. Horrifyingly so.
Yeah.
You know?
It is extremely effective at everything that they're trying to accomplish. Like, this is another really easy point, honestly.
Yeah, I agree with you. All right, Dan, is there replayability?
Would I personally want to subject... I mean, I didn't finish it, so I...
Barely started it, one could argue.
Yeah, really. I think there's a lot of replayability in the Resident Evil games, generally speaking, because so many of the gameplay aspects are so strong. Like, I played Resident Evil 2 a lot of times, like the original version, not the remake. And I think that's just a really good thing about the series. Like, I don't care about time trials or anything like that, which are kind of a big thing in the Resident Evil games. And you do have to replay over and over to get certain equipment unlocked. Like, I think Village brought back the, like, unlimited grenade launcher kind of thing. I'm not 100% positive on this one, but, like, they try to bake that into the experience of, like, every time you play it, you're just going to get better. That isn't always a huge thing for me personally, so I'm gonna go with a half, but I know there are diehards of this series and this game in particular that have played it many times through.
Yeah, I'm not gonna give it a point. I think there's only like one or two choices to make along the story that affect the rest of the game. I am not personally interested in hard modes or anything like that.
Sure.
Which I believe is the only thing that unlocks in this game once you finish it. So I don't know. As an experience, it is, I think, worth revisiting, but not for compelling reasons. You know what I mean? Like, yeah. It's not something like, oh, I have to play Resident Evil 7 again because it'll be different this time. It's more like I have to play Resident Evil 7 because I liked it so much the first time, you know?
Right.
And to me, that doesn't quite count as replayability.
That's fine. Yeah.
So, 0 points for me.
Okay.
Does it look good?
With the exception of just that little bit of face mapping stuff, yeah, I think this looks great. We've now a couple times praised the overall atmosphere of this bayou area, the house itself. It looks awesome. And really effective, too. Like, the use of light, dark, shadow in certain things just give it that extra push into being creepy. This looks awesome. Full point.
Yeah, I agree with you. Full point. Moving on. Is there a story?
Yeah, it's convoluted as fuck, and there's a whole bunch of stuff you don't figure out, even as of now, as to why things were the way that they were. But yes, there is a story. Like, Resident Evil is one of those types of games where there's a lot of things that you have to do on your own to research shit, which is sometimes good, sometimes bad. Like, it's not Dark Souls, where in order to understand why any enemy is an enemy, you have to read 45 pages worth of lore. So that's good. I think this is right in the middle of the road in terms of that. So I'm going to go with a half. There is definitely a story, but it's relying on you to understand a little bit too much, and also, again, just leaves you with a ton of cliffhangers in this particular one. Like, if they did a collected edition for this trilogy, that would probably be a full point, because they're going to give you the full breadth of what they're trying to get across.
Yeah. I'm kind of on the fence on this one. I don't know. I feel like there's a lot of beats in there that are just there for, I don't know.
Like shock value? Yeah.
Not even that, really. You know what I mean? But it's just like to have, like, Mia's a double agent and Lucas is a double agent, but he's a sociopath, and it's like they used to be normal people. Like, that part is good, you know, but like there's like one too many layers on this onion, I think. And I think that some of these franchises that have been around for many years forget that not everyone has played them before. And so they lean a little bit too heavily into stuff you should know beforehand.
Right. I mean, even in the ending sequence where Chris Redfield shows up and he's in a helicopter with the Umbrella logo, like that will not mean anything to someone playing this as their first game.
Right.
For people who are experienced with the series, they'd be like, oh, fuck, that's massive. What is going on? But they also don't give you the answer to that question.
Right. I think that Resident Evil is one of the more serious offenders of the things you should know before you start playing the game franchises. And I think they leaned a little too heavily into that for this game. So I can't give it a 0, so I think I'm with you. I'm going to give it a half.
Yeah, I think that's fair.
Okay, Dan. Our big 5-point question. Is it worth the cost?
So this retails at $19.99, I believe, across the board. And I think that's for the gold edition as well.
Yeah.
Definitive edition, as it were.
Mm-hmm.
There is a ton of gameplay here. I don't know that they've done collected editions in Resident Evil, so I don't think that'll be the case here. I think this is the cheapest you're going to get it as far as retail. They definitely have them on sale all the time, but with the remasters and everything that they're doing, like, you're never going to pay less than $20 for a Resident Evil mainline game, I don't believe.
Yeah.
So with that in mind, I think this is a pretty solid 4. The only caveat is this is definitely not everyone's cup of tea. I like horror-based things. This was rough for me.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know that I'll ever finish this. I doubt I'll ever finish this.
Hey, Dan, do you know you can play this game in VR?
Fuck that. Forever. Yes, yeah. I was aware, and I will never. I don't do good with VR, generally speaking, much less having to be whipped around by...
Right. Yeah.
No, like, oh no, God, that's already, like, I already feel uneasy, and I'm not even doing it. So yeah, I think I'm at a 4. It's real close to being a 5, but I'm comfortable with a 4.
I am going to give it a 5.
Okay.
Because I think not the only edition, but like the edition that you would get for $19.99 includes the forbidden footage, I want to say it's called.
Yes.
Or something like that, where you have like several levels where you play as the cameraman.
You play a lot as Chris as well.
Do you really?
Yeah, okay. So there's no resolution in the main game with Lucas. That's all like a secondary campaign with Chris. Like there's the conclusion of the Zoe storyline and the conclusion of the Lucas storyline in the DLC stuff. Yeah,
gotcha. I mean, I feel like there's a lot of meat on the bone for this game. I think if it's your thing, this is like the quintessential survival horror game. They did such a good job crafting this atmosphere that I definitely think that $20 is worth the cost of this game. So and then tack on the DLC, which seems extremely interesting to me, though like a big baby, I did not play it. I think it's a 5-point game for me.
Great. Okay. Well, then that's going to put our final scores for today at 8 points from me, 8.5 points from Shea. And regardless of numbers, is this something you would recommend to somebody?
If you have a weak constitution, I would say no.
Yeah.
But otherwise, I think if you're into horror games and you're not, like I am, a big baby now about them, I think this is definitely a game worth playing.
Yeah. And aside from the lore stuff, I don't think you necessarily even have to be a fan of the Resident Evil series to enjoy this.
Right.
Because it doesn't really feel like the other Resident Evil games felt.
Yeah.
Like, if you didn't like the other Resident Evil games, this might be the one that you gravitate towards, honestly.
Right.
So yeah, I think I would recommend it as well. But again, that same caveat of like, it's real fucking scary, you guys. All right. Well, that's good. As much as I didn't enjoy the game itself, I enjoyed discussing it, even though I've revealed myself to be weak at heart, apparently, or something. I don't know.
Broken Gaming certified big babies.
That's right. All right. I personally need a palate cleanser at least. Hey, Shea, you want to play a game?
Dan, pilot a plane with me as we hurtle around other planes, try to get all of our landing gear and flaps down as we approach a runway at light speed. I would love to play a game.
Like literally light speed?
No,
because
not
that would be
literally
amazing.
Unless you play with me, in which case I put 6s on the speed track all the time.
In what game do you do that, Shay?
That is Sky Team, which is a great game that I recommend everybody goes play right now.
I'm interested.
It's very, very good.
All right. Well, Shay, I am not a fan of mushrooms. Like, I enjoy the flavor of a mushroom, don't get me wrong, but like it's absolutely a texture thing for me. Like, I have textural issues when it comes to certain food. But that notwithstanding, if you told me that eating a mushroom would give me superpowers, I'd say, fuck it, load that pizza up. So, in honor of today's game and the moldy terror of Resident Evil, I decided to look at the lighter side of video game fungi. Whether it lets you double in size or gain extra lives, mushrooms are synonymous with our favorite Italian plumber. So today, I'm going to list off a variety of mushrooms in the Mario canon, and all you have to do is tell me whether or not they are real or fake.
Oh, fuck.
So, just because I am saying in the Mario canon, we are not going to be including the ones that are specific to Mario Maker, because I don't think they are canon, strictly speaking. So like the weird mushroom, the one that turns you into that weird elongated version of Mario, where he's just like tall and lanky, that won't be included. Yeah. And because we have this thing where we keep trying to figure out each other's processes when it comes to ordering, I'm going to let you do the order of these. So I've randomly assigned numbers to the 7 that we're going to be discussing.
Oh my god,
and you're going to pick the order. Yeah.
That's definitely more mushrooms than Mario games that I've played, but
that's okay.
Let's go.
So 1 through 7, whatever order you want to do them in.
Gotta start with 4, baby.
4? Okay.
Yeah.
Well, that would be the Dr. Mushroom, which turns the character into the Dr. Mario version of themselves, allowing them to throw pills instead of fireballs.
I want to say no. I feel like you pick up a pill for that one, but fuck it. I'm going to say no.
And that it's fake?
That it's not a mushroom.
It is fake. I made that one up. So that's already a point on the board. We're doing great.
All right.
See how easy this is?
There's 6 more, Dan. Let's not get carried away.
You've already won.
All right. Let's do 1.
Number 1 is the Boo Mushroom, which transforms Mario into Boo Mario, allowing him to pass through fences and read Booish.
Is Booish real? I don't think that's... Don't they just talk to you? I'm going to say fake.
It is real. They are exclusive to the Mario Galaxy games. They appear in both Galaxy 1 and 2. And yeah, I wasn't aware of this Booish thing either, but I guess maybe they write
for sure
in a
just
specific...
talk to you in Luigi's Mansion.
I'm assuming it's like a hieroglyphic thing. I've played some of Galaxy, the first one, so I don't know what the fuck that's about. But yeah, that's apparently an aspect of it.
Fair enough.
Mm-hmm.
I suppose. Let's do 7 now.
Number 7 is the Drill Mushroom, allowing the characters to smash bricks with their heads and drill into floors and ceilings. It also makes it impossible for an enemy to attack you from above.
I want to say that that's real. I feel like I remember seeing that somewhere. I'm going to say real.
It is real, and that is introduced in Super Mario Bros. Wonder, the game that is about to drop, where also there's an elephant fruit that turns you into an elephant.
And why not?
For some fucking reason, yeah. Well done.
Cool. Let's do 3.
Number 3 is the Mason Mushroom, allowing the character to create bricks underneath them when they jump to reach higher platforms.
That would be extremely useful in Mario, but I don't think that's real.
We're saying fake on that one?
I guess so.
It is fake. I made that up. And yeah, it would be. So I should apply to Nintendo of America, because I think that's a great idea.
It is. Terrific. Okay. What do I have left? 2, 5, and 6, right?
Yes.
Let's do 5.
Number 5 is the Water Mushroom, which grants the character the ability to move in water as they would on land, letting you run and jump underwater instead of the swimming action.
God, that would be useful also. I want to say that that's not a mushroom. I don't remember. I'm going to say real. Fuck it.
That is fake. I made that one up. And I also agree. I feel like that would be very useful in certain circumstances. This is just going on my application now.
Yes. You continue to pad the resume here.
Mm-hmm.
All right. 2.
Number 2 is the invincibility mushroom, granting the character invincibility for the entirety of a level and surrounding them with a white glow.
I mean, I know the limited invincibility is a star, not a mushroom.
Mm-hmm.
Although, who the fuck knows? Maybe that's a mushroom too. I'm gonna say fake. I don't care.
No, it is. You're right that it's a star. That's the temporary like do 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 do.
Right. Yeah.
But is there also an invincibility mushroom?
I don't think so. I'm gonna say fake.
It is in fact real. That appears in Captain Toad Treasure Tracker and Mario and Luigi Superstar Saga.
Fuck off. Fuck off.
I said the Mario canon. Yeah, I thought genuinely that I did make this up. I had it on the list as a potential to be a fake one, and I was proven to be correct also, kind of. Like, I found this definitive list of Super Mario power-ups, and as I was scrolling through, I almost missed it, but I'm like, oh, fuck, well, I guess I can't use that one then for that. But, yeah, it's in fucking Captain Toad. Why not?
Do you know how many fucking copies of that game have sold?
No. Is it a lot? Or is it very little?
I want you to take a guess at how many games or how many copies of Captain Toad Treasure Tracker have sold as of December 2022.
Oh, like you just looked it up for the purposes of this crazy nonsense?
Because I was going to yell at you for the catering to a game that 6 people have played, but that was incorrect.
Oh boy, 10 million.
Oh, that's insane. No,
yeah, it would be
2.35 million.
That still seems so many.
Insane to me.
That's still so many. Good lord.
Oh,
fuck!
Out of here, Nintendo.
That's crazy. All right, wow. All right, and our last mushroom is number 6, which is the vacuum mushroom, allowing the character to, like Kirby, suck up and swallow everything in sight.
I'm emotionally drained from this quiz. Chef, fake.
It is real.
I fucking hope it's fake.
It
Get
is real.
Out of here.
Yep, it
Goodbye.
is the main plot point of Mario and Luigi Bowser's Inside Story, where Bowser is tricked into eating this mushroom and then just basically swallows, I think, the whole fucking Mushroom Kingdom, and then the entire game is played inside of Bowser. Yeah.
Oh my god. Dan, guess how many copies of Mario and Luigi Bowser's Inside Story has sold?
More or less than Captain Toad.
I just want you to tell me a number, Dan.
All right, so it was, what, 2.5 for Captain Toad?
2.35, yes.
Okay. 3.25.
No, Dan. 4.56.
Jesus Christ. All right, cool. Then I'm not a total asshole for including it. Got it. I dig it. Okay, just for frame of reference, can you tell me how many copies Super Mario Sunshine sold? Like, notoriously the one that people were like, this is going to kill the franchise.
Wow. 6.28 million for Super Mario Sunshine.
Even when they make bad games, or like what the industry considers a bad game, they still blow most games out of the water. Good on you, Mario.
Oh boy. It's the 3rd highest GameCube game of all time. 3rd highest selling GameCube game of all time.
What are the other 2?
I'm about to tell you.
Or save it for a quiz sometime.
No. Also related to Mario. Number 2, Mario Kart Double Dash, 6.96 million. And then, of course, number 1 with not a bullet, I guess, but enough, is Super Smash Bros. Melee.
Oh, that makes all the sense in the world. Yeah.
It sure fucking does. Yeah.
I mean, I'm pretty sure I got Sunshine packaged with my GameCube when I bought it. I could be wrong, but
I think you're right about that. I think that's the game that came with our GameCube as well.
See, and that inflates those numbers. So
it sure fucking does.
All right.
Did people not like that game?
There were control issues, I think. But it did give us Bowser Jr. That's the first game with Bowser Jr. So we have that to thank for it, I guess.
All right, Dan.
Yeah. That's going to be 3 points added to the big board for the day. Well done, Shay. That's
the scariest moment of all. Was reading through those sales numbers.
Nintendo's an unstoppable juggernaut.
Correct.
At least when it comes to their first-party stuff.
Yeah.
Right before recording, we were talking about the different ports, and we couldn't imagine playing Resident Evil 7 on a Switch. It just isn't robust enough to do it, I don't think. But, you know, maybe you've played it and you can let us know. And you can do that by subscribing to either our Twitter or Instagram at BNGPod, where we post custom artwork for every episode, as well as Shay said earlier, sales that you should be aware of that we call cheap codes.
If you want to share the show, you can do so with our hosting site, which is anchor.fm/BNGpod. And if you want to catch me crying like a little baby while I stream a half hour of Resident Evil 7 Biohazard, you can follow us on Twitch at twitch.tv/BNGpodcast. Those videos are immortalized forever on our YouTube channel, which is youtube.com/@BrokeNGamingPodcast.
And the easiest way to get in touch with us directly would be to email us at brokengamingpod@gmail.com, where we take suggestions for games that we should play, as well as any other comments that you guys have for us. Hey, Shay, what are we playing next time?
Next time, Dan, we'll be playing a little game called Dismantle. So make sure you tune in for that.
We'll be out of spooky season, but we're still going to be fighting zombie-like things, and I'm really looking forward to talking about this one. But until then, goodbye, absolutely everyone.
Goodbye.